How many of us talk crap to ourselves when we screw up? Does it really matter? I've been hearing a lot lately about the dangers of negative self-talk, that it can only be harmful, never useful. I remember my teachers in the 90s warning us that it damages self-esteem. It seems a lot more obvious to me that harsh words toward oneself would arise as a symptom of low self-esteem more than a cause, and that the intention is to inject more passion into efforts for self-improvement, so as to avoid repeating a mistake and thereby raise self-esteem in the long run. I'm not sure it succeeds at much of that either. But we can reasonably assume, at least, that insofar as it can cause problems, it has an impact, and must be admitted to also have some potential for solving problems. The kid in Whiplash got better at drums, didn't he? But again, when it comes down to words in your own head, I find the impact dubious. You fail at something and respond with a feeling. I think it's immaterial whether you put that feeling into words. Words are mainly for communicating from one human to another. I have a hard time believing a lone, feral human would feel any less emotion about his failures simply for a lack of words. I think the same is true for positive self-talk, pop psychology affirmation trends notwithstanding. If you care about what you're attempting and you pull it off, there's going to be a sense of pride, regardless of whether you vocalize it. An argument could even be made that by physically patting yourself on the back and saying aloud, "Good job, I'm so talented," you'd get a little embarrassed about the corniness of it, cheapening the moment and causing you to rein in the feeling slightly. On that theory, if we think negative emotions regarding oneself are always a bad thing, maybe we should be encouraging kids to creatively engage in the cheesiest negative self-talk they can muster. Anyone want to fund that study? Let me steel man the popular idea about self-talk for a moment. Even though I've never heard it put into a coherent theory before, let's go ahead and make one out of it. The emotions come first, and then the words. But let's presume that the words also trigger emotion, and the whole thing runs in a loop of rumination, and that the loop can be broken if we start speaking the words of a different emotion in a sort of fake-it-till-you-make-it strategy of trying to train yourself to eventually have a different initial emotional response to failure. Who knows? Stick that in the study as well, will ya? Now, I wrote this episode after listening to Peter Attia talk about how it changed his life to switch from talking crap about himself to instead pretend the failure had happened to a friend, pull out his phone, and text himself the advice that he would give to a friend in that situation. I like that out-of-the-box thinking, but how would you pull that off in practice? When I give advice, it's never a one-way street. It requires a lot of back-and-forth dialogue, and I'm not really advising my friends so much as pushing them to think it through and come up with a solution of their own. Flying solo, this seems like a route to madness. Nobody talks to themselves more than crazy people. Do you really want to fake it till you make it? Okay then, Mr. Smarty Pants podcast narrator. What do you do? Well, not much. When I'm alone, I do plenty of thinking, but not a whole lot of talking to myself. The closest I come is when I'm feeling my efforts are insufficient to pose questions to myself that are meant to be answered with actions, not words or emotions. How bad do you want it? Is this the best use of my time? Are you really going to be satisfied going to bed without finishing that? The challenge I'm posing to listeners is to hit me with your favorite go-to rhetorical private question. Or if you don't have one, try to think one up that could be valuable, and email it to me or post it in the comments. When we get a handful of good ones, I'll re-record the episode and list them out as a resource for everyone. And as a final thought, if nobody listens to this episode, then I just spent the last few minutes talking to myself about talking to myself. Hey guys, quick note before I go. I know some of these podcast topics are a little goofy, so if you like the way I think, but you really want to take advantage of the best of what my brain has to offer, look up my books on Amazon or Audible. My first book, Augmenting Willpower, is a field manual for human psychology that emphasizes personal accountability, while my second book, An Idea is Not a Product, is a guide for building routines and systems that force you to put your money where your mouth is. Both titles are available in all formats, so you can listen to the audio on the go, easily search topics by keyword in the ebook, and the paperback fits right in your pocket.